Number 10. Sitting far longer than the body was built for sitting feels harmless. It feels neutral, passive, safe. You're not running into traffic. You're not lifting heavy objects. You're not doing anything that looks dangerous. And that's why it's so easy to underestimate what sitting actually does to the body over time. The human body evolved to move constantly. Walking, squatting, stretching, changing positions throughout the day. Sitting for hours at a time is a relatively new behavior in human history, and the body hasn't adapted to it well. When you sit for long periods, large muscle groups stop working. Blood circulation slows. The hips tighten. The core weakens. The spine compresses in unnatural ways. Even breathing becomes shallower as the chest collapses forward. The damage doesn't feel dramatic. It shows up quietly. A stiff neck that never fully goes away. Lower back pain that feels normal. Tight hips that affect how you walk. Poor posture that becomes permanent. What makes this worse is that sitting doesn't feel optional anymore. Work requires it. Entertainment encourages it. Transportation reinforces it. Even exercise doesn't completely cancel it out. You can work out for an hour and still undo most of the benefits by sitting for the next 10. So instead of changing the behavior, humans adapt the environment. Ergonomic chairs. Standing desks used occasionally. Stretching once in a while, but the core habit stays because sitting feels productive. It feels civilized. It feels unavoidable. And that's why it keeps quietly harming the body year after year. Number 9. Interrupting our own attention constantly. Most people believe distraction is something that happens to them. In reality, it's something they participate in. Every notification, message, alert, vibration, or badge is an invitation. And almost every time we accept it, each interruption feels small. A few seconds, a quick glance, nothing serious, but the brain doesn't experience it that way. Every time attention shifts, the brain has to stop what it's doing, process something new, and then attempt to return to the original task. This process takes energy. Focus doesn't snap back instantly. It rebuilds slowly. When interruptions happen frequently, deep focus never fully forms. Over time, the brain adapts to this pattern. It becomes restless, impatient, uncomfortable with silence or sustained effort. Tasks that require concentration start to feel exhausting. Even when they're not difficult, the harm is subtle. Shallow thinking. Reduced creativity. Mental fatigue that shows up without obvious cause. Because everyone lives this way, it feels normal. People assume the problem is personal. A lack of discipline. A short attention span. They don't question the habit itself. So instead of protecting their focus, humans train their brains to expect interruption and quietly lose the ability to concentrate. Number 8. Breathing in a way that keeps the body stressed. Breathing is automatic, which makes it easy to assume it doesn't matter how we do it, but the way most people breathe today is very different from how the body is meant to. Modern posture, stress, and constant screen use encourage shallow, chest-based breathing. Short inhales, quick exhales, very little movement in the diaphragm. This type of breathing sends a quiet signal to the nervous system that something is wrong, even when nothing is happening. Shallow breathing keeps the body in a low-level fight or flight state. Heart rate stays slightly elevated. Muscles remain tense. The nervous system never fully shifts into rest and recovery mode. Over time, this affects far more than breathing. Sleep quality drops. Digestion becomes inconsistent. Anxiety becomes easier to trigger. Mental clarity fades faster than it should. The most harmful part is how invisible it is. Shallow breathing doesn't feel wrong. It feels normal because it's constant. People don't notice it unless they deliberately slow down and pay attention. So instead of addressing the cause, humans normalize tension. They accept feeling slightly on edge as part of everyday life, and the body stays quietly stressed. Number 7. Ignoring small pain because it's manageable. Pain doesn't have to be intense to matter. A tight neck, a sore wrist, a dull ache in the lower back. These small, recurring discomforts are easy to ignore because they don't stop us from functioning. So we push through them. Modern life encourages this. Taking time off feels inconvenient. Seeing a professional feels excessive. Rest feels like something to earn, not something to use preventively. But pain is information. It's the body signaling imbalance, strain, or overload. Ignoring it doesn't solve the issue. It just gives it time to deepen. Small problems quietly become chronic ones. Muscles compensate. Joints take extra stress. Movement patterns shift in unhealthy ways. By the time pain becomes impossible to ignore, the original cause is often buried under layers of compensation, yet people accept this process as normal. They assume aches and pains are just part of getting older, something everyone deals with. They don't question the habit of ignoring early warnings, even though those warnings were meant to protect them. Number 6. Eating without paying attention to eating. Eating used to be a focused activity. Now it's something that happens in the background. People eat while watching videos, scrolling feeds, answering messages, working, or driving. The act of eating becomes secondary to whatever is on the screen. When attention is elsewhere, the body's signals get missed. Hunger cues blur. Fullness signals arrive late or go unnoticed entirely. Food gets eaten faster, chewed less, and enjoyed less. The brain doesn't properly register satisfaction when it's distracted, so meals feel incomplete, even when the stomach is full. This leads to unnecessary snacking, cravings, and overeating without intention. Over time, this affects digestion, metabolism, and the relationship with food itself. Eating becomes automatic instead of nourishing, but because distracted eating feels efficient, people accept it. Sitting down just to eat feels unnecessary. Slowing down feels indulgent. So humans continue feeding their bodies while mentally being somewhere else and quietly undermine their own health. Number 5. Sleeping at different times every day. Most people think sleep problems are about not getting enough hours. In reality, when you sleep matters just as much as how long you sleep. The human body runs on an internal clock. Hormones, body temperature, digestion, and mental alertness all follow predictable cycles. When sleep times are consistent, these systems stay synchronized. When sleep times constantly change, the body gets confused. Late nights during the week. Sleeping in on weekends. Staying up late just this once. Each shift forces the internal clock to recalibrate. And unlike travel, where jet lag is obvious, this disruption happens quietly. Hormones like melatonin and cortisol stop being released at the right times. Sleep becomes lighter. Waking up feels harder. Energy dips appear randomly throughout the day. People try to compensate with caffeine, sugar, or willpower. They tell themselves they'll catch up on sleep later, but sleep doesn't work like a bank account. The damage builds gradually. Mood becomes unstable. Focus suffers. Stress tolerance drops. And because this happens slowly, people don't connect it to their sleep schedule. They accept feeling tired as normal. Number 4. Holding physical tension without realizing it. Most tension isn't dramatic. It's subtle. Shoulders creeping upward. Jaw clenched slightly. Hands gripping objects too tightly. Brows furrowed without awareness. These small contractions add up over time. Stress doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it settles quietly into the body and stays there. When muscles remain tense for long periods, blood flow decreases. Oxygen delivery drops. Fatigue increases. Pain develops in places that seem unrelated. The body eventually forgets how relaxation feels. Tension becomes the default state because this tension feels familiar. People don't question it. They assume it's just how their body works now. They treat discomfort as baseline, but constant tension keeps the nervous system activated. It prevents true recovery, even during rest. So the body stays stuck in survival mode, even when nothing is actually wrong. Number 3. Replacing real rest with constant stimulation. Rest used to mean stillness. Now it usually means screens. After a long day, many people don't truly rest. They switch from work stimulation to entertainment stimulation. Videos, social media, news, endless scrolling. The brain stays active, alert, processing information. This kind of rest doesn't allow mental recovery. It keeps the nervous system engaged when it needs to slow down. Over time, this creates a strange exhaustion. People feel tired but restless, drained but unable to relax. Their minds never fully power down. True rest can feel uncomfortable at first. Silence, boredom, no input. But those moments are when the brain resets and integrates experiences. Because stimulation is easier than stillness, humans avoid real rest, and the fatigue quietly accumulates. Number 2. Avoiding natural light without realizing it. Light is not just something we see with. It's something the body uses. Natural daylight is one of the strongest signals the human body relies on to regulate itself. It tells your internal clock when to wake up, when to feel alert, and when to prepare for sleep. It influences mood, energy, focus, and even hormone production. But modern life keeps people indoors. Many people wake up before the sun rises, spend the day under artificial lighting, and return home after sunset. Even when they do go outside, it's often briefly, from building to car, from car to building. Artificial light doesn't fully replace what sunlight provides. It lacks the intensity and spectrum the body expects. As a result, internal rhythms drift, sleep quality suffers, energy becomes inconsistent, mood subtly shifts, motivation drops without an obvious reason. People often mistake these effects for stress, aging, or lack of discipline. They try to fix them with caffeine, supplements, or willpower. Rarely do they question something as simple as light exposure, because being indoors feels normal, comfortable, productive. So, humans quietly starve their bodies of a signal they evolved to depend on, and wonder why they never quite feel rested. Number 1. Avoiding silence and reflection. Silence makes many people uneasy when there's no noise, no screen, no distraction. Thoughts surface, feelings emerge, questions appear that don't have immediate answers. So people fill the space. Music while walking, podcasts while driving, videos while eating, notifications filling every quiet moment. Noise becomes a buffer between the mind and itself. This habit doesn't feel harmful. In fact, it feels efficient, entertaining, productive. But silence is where the mind processes experiences. It's where emotions settle, where unresolved thoughts organize themselves. Avoiding silence doesn't remove discomfort, it delays it. Over time, this creates a constant low-level mental tension. Thoughts never fully resolve. Stress accumulates without release. Self-awareness weakens. People become uncomfortable being alone with their own thoughts. Reflection feels unfamiliar. Stillness feels restless, because silence doesn't provide immediate stimulation. It gets treated as something to escape rather than something to use, and one of the most important tools for mental clarity quietly disappears from daily life. Most of the things on this list don't feel dangerous. They don't cause sudden pain. They don't create immediate consequences. They don't trigger alarm bells. They work slowly. They blend into routine. They hide inside habits. They become part of what feels normal. That's what makes them powerful. Quiet harm doesn't demand attention. It accumulates while life goes on, while people stay busy, while days blur together. And because everyone does these things, they rarely get questioned. But normal doesn't mean harmless, and familiar doesn't mean healthy. Sometimes the most damaging habits aren't the dramatic ones, they're the quiet ones we repeat every day without noticing. That's all for today. I'll be making more videos like this in the future. Subscribe if you want to see them.